Right, can I just say welcome to everyone, by the way, and thanks for the new members that come in and have come on the planning committee, because that's brilliant. The more the merrier. So, do you want to go, Jan? Or not, no?
Sorry?
Have we any apologies?
No.
So there's no reason given. Excellent. Do I do all this these days? Not you.
Yes, you do it all.
Oh, God. Right, declarations of interest. I have one on one of the planning applications. Anyone else?
Really, isn't it?
Yeah.
27A. And the planning number is... Okay.
Right, item 26, the minutes of the previous meeting. Are we agreeing those? Fair reflection of the last meeting.
Could I propose that?
Yep.
Okay. Seconder? Yeah. All agreed? Evening?
Yep.
What can you sign?
Yeah, that's all.
Can you initial that page? Lovely. Sign and date there. It's 24th. Just initial at the bottom. Thank you.
Okay, planning applications. Have you all seen the planning applications that have come in so far? I have many comments on them. Apologies I put them in so late. I'm afraid I was away for a few days and a few more days. But we do get them all through anyway, so if there's anything that we need to bring up, let's bring it up now. Yay, no?
Yeah, I've got a couple. Related to 683.21, which has already been approved by the looks of it, the termination notice here.
Sorry, which one's that, Peter?
H09 063821.
Oh, I haven't got 06.
Yeah, it was I think it was another one.
H09 0638-21. Development of 2 detached houses at Hawley Drove. It looks as though by the termination notice it's been approved. However, there was public concerns about the use of the land, the rear of those properties, because one, the properties have not yet been built, but two, the land at the back has been fenced off and marked out for caravan use and secured. So I put through some comments asking that concerns of local residents be brought to bear, that the fear was that the travelling community would start to use that land, and their fear of the associated stereotypical responses would be as such. So I put some comments through that Southern District Council should be made aware of those concerns, although I had no objections to the building of the 2 houses. I note though in the decision notice there's no response at all from Hawley Parish Council, so obviously our comments didn't get through.
No, that hasn't been done. We didn't object to the first one because it is a second one, so we're discussing it tonight for me to put comments on.
Okay.
But yeah, go on as well, because I know what this was going to say.
Oh, do you really? Okay. Firstly, your comments were our last full council meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that was on that was not agreed because the rest of them hadn't been commented on, so we couldn't agree anything at that meeting, so therefore they didn't get agreed at that meeting. Which is exactly what we're in the same situation of now. I know we can discuss them tonight, but actually the problem is that under our terms of reference, every councillor is allowed to comment.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, we are not a majority here.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, whatever we discuss here, we can't put in an objection because we're not the majority, because the others have not put in a comment or an objection, so therefore we have to presume that they have no issue with it.
Yep.
So all we can do is submit a comment, but we should not be saying object or not object to those applications unless we have a majority of councillors that are saying that. If it were a contentious one, then I would expect it should be agendaed for a full council meeting so that everybody can have their say. That would be a sensible thing to do, because obviously we're not a majority here to make a decision, are we?
But that doesn't stop you from doing it as a private.
You can do it, Jim.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I have a number of local parishioners near me who have collared me on this one.
Yeah.
And I've sent them straight off to South Holland, their planning portal, and said, look, you can write what you like in there, and I will obviously follow it through here. But it's clearly clear that we need to agree a better process for this, because otherwise we've got to get full council to do everything.
We
That's
don't.
every month.
We're a committee, we're allowed to make decisions. That was agreed, otherwise there's no point having a
From
meeting.
what Isabel was saying there, we can't.
We don't have to go full council anymore.
Well, no.
You said that before, you actually said that last
No, I
week.
didn't. No, I didn't.
We don't have to have permission of full council.
No, I didn't say that. I said that the terms of reference clearly state that every member of the council has the right to make a comment
Yeah.
on the planning, which they're all sent out to all members. The process is exactly the same as it was previously, in that those should be then collated and those comments should be put forward to us as a planning committee, and we then agree those comments at this meeting. That's how it worked previously at the full council meeting. What we are doing now is that you've got a 2-weekly cycle, because you've got the opportunity to do that now and also again at full council, so you don't miss any. Because what was happening at full council was that you were getting some that we were missing because of the dates.
Because of the 2 weeks.
So
Yeah.
the whole point of this particular committee is, yes, we can discuss comments that we wish to put as an extra to it, but it has to be based in planning law as such. There's no point just saying, oh, we don't want that because we don't like the look of it or whatever. It's got to have some substance to it.
And on this particular one, I had
Yes,
comments
you
from
did.
parishioners
Yes, you
which
did.
beefed up and produced evidence.
Yes, exactly. So therefore we can put the comment on, but we can't actually say we object to it unless the majority of the council have said that they object to it. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, here we go. Okay.
Yeah?
But we also can't object to it unless it has relevance within the planning law.
Mhm.
Just because we don't like the travellers, we can't
No,
object.
no, no.
And that's what the majority of people around the area are saying.
Yeah, so essentially my response on that one was, I've no objection to the house, because the application was to build 2 houses.
Mm.
No problem with that whatsoever, okay? All I was articulating was parishioners in the area have expressed concern
Yeah.
that the land at the back looks as though it's being used for other purposes, and can South Holland be made aware of that? Hence, that is a comment to
Yeah.
go back to them.
Absolutely.
Okay. Incidentally, as we'll see with the next point I've got made, an application has been made to change the use of the land, of the paddocks at the back there, to build a travellers' permanent and residential site.
Mm.
I think my issue is that we've got to get some sort of system worked out properly as to how we're going to do this, because
Completely agree.
there is no point us coming to discuss somebody's extension that really, quite frankly, you know, there is no point to it.
No, we said one of the contentious ones.
Yes, so if we're going to do, if we can still put a comment, and we should still be responding to all applications with a comment if it's necessary,
Mhm.
but we should discuss the ones that are contentious
Oh,
fully.
Totally agree, yeah.
And that should be for everybody to do. So if it's possible to do it at a full council meeting, it should be done there rather than here, because we're not, even if we all voted the same way, we're not a majority, are we?
No.
And that's the problem.
But that still leaves any decisions to be made at full council only, which still leaves us with a full week, so we could miss that.
Yeah.
So is an alternative, Jan, is an alternative that we ask full council for delegated powers, and therefore a change in the terms of reference for this committee.
I think-
And of course, please do, Chair.
If you see this column here where it says from how many responses from councillors, when they answer, because they copy me in as well, if the numbers are put in there, then we know how many people are responding to each planning application, and there's been several over the last few days.
Well, I think Peter,
And Peter,
Yeah.
This is what I was
I
going
think
to
even
explain.
calls on a couple, yeah.
So I'm completely with you as well. We need a robust process
We do,
to do
yeah,
this, because
we do.
otherwise, we as a wider council are not representing our parishioners' concerns effectively,
Yeah.
which is essentially what we're here to do.
So it's really a matter of, we need to decide how we're going to do this moving forward, because under the terms of reference that we're under now,
Yep.
there's very little point in us sitting around here tonight discussing every single application.
Having
Oh,
understood
no.
that now, absolutely. So
And
hence,
then
I
not being
think,
able to move forward with
Yeah.
it.
yeah,
Exactly.
so I think one way to do it, to avoid this potential for missing applications between full councils, where that's the point we can make decisions, is to request, if possible, the additional delegated power that we, as a committee, can make decisions to approve, not approve, or comment on planning
I mean,
applications.
it really needs all the councillors to respond when those planning applications get sent to them.
Agreed, but
They
they don't.
should respond so that we can then show that we've got
Yeah.
response from.
Yeah, totally agree, and I say every meeting, they don't respond,
The point
nobody
is-
does it.
By them not responding, we'll never get a majority, so therefore we may as well not actually bother discussing planning applications at all.
It's
Yeah.
exactly that. So that is the
Yeah.
situation. So it's really, is it an agenda item for our next full council meeting to say, what do you actually want us to do? Do you want us only to respond to those that are contentious? Or do you want us in general to have the powers to respond to every application? If the consensus around the table is actually that they really don't give a monkey's about planning,
Yeah.
which clearly by the amount of people that are responding, that seems to be the opinion.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know whether that is the opinion or not, but we have to give them that opportunity to say
Agreed.
that, don't we?
Agreed, but evidence would suggest that they are nonplussed about planning,
Yeah.
and they've almost, dare I suggest, there's an assumption they're expecting the planning committee to sort it out, and that might be the impasse
Yes.
that we need to fill.
Yeah.
So I absolutely agree. I think the next full council we need to
I
decide
think because
as
they
to
think that
how we're going to handle planning applications, with the possibility that if full council are ambivalent about it, we request the additional delegated powers to act on behalf of council to approve or not approve, pass comment back to South Holland.
Jane, could we put on the next agenda for the next full council meeting that the chairman is a little bit more, I wouldn't say aggressive, just a bit more,
Firm.
firmer, yeah, to all the councillors, that when these come in, comment on them, because it's about our town. So, it's overdeveloped, it's being overdeveloped, and no one seems to care. And it's very, very important to me personally about the overdevelopment of the town.
I think the other key point is, as I mentioned earlier, we as council here to represent the parishioners.
Yeah.
If they have concerns, we are the vehicle by which their concerns can be articulated. And we're not doing that, therefore we're letting them down. And that really gets to me.
I think the house parishioners are starting finally to realise that we haven't got sufficient medical cover for the area, because I did see a response on the LCC website, and it was something that came from the House Commissioning Board, that they were starting to get concerned about the development and the lack of facilities. But then again, they shouldn't have gone and sold the ground that was given to them.
So that was my point on 638, the fact that our comments hadn't gone back, and hopefully with that on the next council agenda we can begin to sort that out. My other concerns are on the permission 845-21, which is a retrospective request to change the use of the paddocks at the rear of these two properties into a permanent and travelling caravan site. I've had, a number of parishioners who are seriously concerned about it. Again, I've recommended they go off and they make their own comments and representations, but I'd like to recommend to full council that is rejected on the grounds of the email I sent through, in terms of it's reasonable to assume that the plans with the land were already decided before they actually put the original planning application in, because the fencing and all of the gravelling and roads were put in well before the permissions were even put in. So it's almost as if it's a fait accompli and they're just now filling the paperwork in.
I don't think that they're being strict enough, because when people put in their applications, they've already done half the work, and if they've done that and then they're looking for a retrospective, then it shouldn't be allowed,
Well, in
because
this
they've
case,
assumed that they're going to get it.
in this case, even if you look at the plans, they've done all the fencing, they've gravelled it through, they put the bays in,
Yeah.
everything, it's now completely secure. They even caused chaos down there, getting all the water to close the road for 3 days to put water in ahead of this work. Believe me, 40-ton lorries down Dodge Road North are not good. But yeah, this is purely that.
Yeah.
They plan to do the work, now they're putting a retrospective in, which I think is the wrong way. It's flouting the planning rules.
And many people do it
Mm,
all the time.
Sure.
But planning law, you've got to look at a reason, you've got to find a reason
Mm.
to try and object. You can't just object because we think they've purposely done it before. That's the problem. That's for the residents. The residents can say anything they want, we can't.
I agree.
So we've got to be
So-
very, very careful.
So essentially all I'm doing then is I'm passing on the
Yeah,
comments and
yeah.
concerns of the
Which
parishioners
is
who've spoken
brilliant,
to me. And I think we rightly should represent that to South Holland.
Andy? Can I suggest that on top of what we're just discussing now about the actual comments that we make directly to district, I think we also should be approaching our representatives, if we have any, on the planning committee, the people that are representing our town, to speak up on behalf of our parishioners, because I don't believe that we have much of a voice on that planning committee. Purely because of numbers. I believe, I'm not sure, I believe we only have one member on the planning committee from Holwich,
Right.
which, you know, considering the size of our town, is not a lot really, is
You
it?
do have a second, it's Nigel Pepper. He represents Crowland, but part of the strip comes out and touches the very bottom of Holwich
Okay.
Parish, and I have included him.
So I think, you know, making a representation to those people that can speak at those meetings would be a better way of sometimes communicating what we actually are thinking. And also maybe in general going to district council and saying that, you know, when there have been issues with non-compliance in planning, we don't feel that there is enough being done to make that right. Because we haven't really got an awful lot of clout when it comes to getting things done on a planning level, but
Absolutely.
we have got a voice as to how we feel that they should be reacting.
I agree, and this is something I articulate to parishioners all the time. As a parish council, we actually don't have the gloves. It's district that have the gloves to do the fighting. All we need to do, we have a voice to represent our and their views to district.
District don't have much.
That
Councils don't have much. It's the planning department that
Yeah.
decide, you know, ultimately, unless it's a massive
Yeah.
vote against them.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and that's what I get from
Yeah.
councils.
And sadly, that perpetuates the situation. I messaged a message from one of the parishioners last night, basically saying, well, there's nothing to do, there's nothing that can be done, so it's pointless actually raising objection, which brings us all the way back to the beginning of
Yeah.
the process is flawed.
It is. No, that's brilliant. Appreciate that.
So they're really my points on those two. It'd be good to follow up with the planning process, because we do need to get more robust. But if we can pass those comments on both back to South Holland, the parishioners that I know would be very grateful.
I don't comment on them.
I know you don't.
No, I do, but I've got to be very, very careful how I put it. That's the thing.
Whereas you
The
see,
parishioners are worried.
they are indeed, but you see, I have the ability to do that. You have to be careful, Jan has to be careful.
Yeah.
I feel I have the more vocal position to be able to represent my parishioners.
I mean, just on that, Eddie, I mean, you are able to comment and basically say that you have concerns have been raised by local parishioners in the area about the use of the land. You can do that.
Yeah.
You're not saying we object to it or anything like that, but you can do that as part of our response, and that is something that we should be doing,
Yeah.
rather than just saying object, not object, whatever. there is no point to that.
I see no
It's-
value in just saying object.
No, there is
Because
no.
if you're going to object,
You've got to give a reason.
you have to explain why.
If you want to object, it's a minefield to go through all the sections to justify your objection. I've done that once and I think it surprised someone, because I went back and said, under section so-and-so, so-and-so, this is wrong. Under section so-and-so, so-and-so, that is wrong. And it meant that they had to look it up. But it took me all bloody evening to find them.
What I generally do on these, I look on the website and you read the, pages and pages of Anglian Water, LCC, NHS. It's just a pile of it, especially there's a couple here from last month, the houses off Fen Road. There's been two big objections to that from the Drainage Board and of course the NHS. And a fantastic paper that's telling everyone how much it costs per person, per pupil to go to school. It's written down in a big list. It's incredible to read, actually. 4 pupils, £113,000. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, isn't it? But that's on there, so that's something that we were able to comment on. This, yes, we'll just say concerns from the parishioners.
I think that it is all we can do. And then we do need to look at what we are actually trying to achieve and what full council want us to achieve. Do they want us to be reacting to every single little application, or would they prefer us only to react to those that are contentious? And that is, we need to know what they want us to do.
Yeah. And I think sense will prevail there, and the latter should be the outcome, whereby we're looking at the ones where we get comments, where we get concerns from our parishioners, because ultimately that means we're managing the whole thing by exception rather than by rule. Otherwise, I don't want to be here for 2 or 3 hours doing it.
No, don't. All I put is the ones we consider like rear extension cells, put no objection.
Exactly.
And I think that's all we can do.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're right to bring up that one. I don't think it's anything that's been put on lately, apart from the one you brought up.
No. Yeah, as I say, everything else was extensions and first floors and windows and stuff. Yeah.
So can we move on now from planning? Next one, number 28, emergency planning. To agree who will do the training for the emergency planning policy for the 3rd month. Have we got any volunteers at all, Jan?
No. But we must choose somebody tonight.
Can you explain that a little
I was just going to say, to us newbies, can
Yes.
somebody explain?
Well done.
Sorry.
Off you go, Jan. You're the expert on this one.
LCC run training, and we need 2 people to go on this training course. Should there be an emergency in the town, that could be anything. It could range from flooding to major power outage, or lack of food, to a pandemic, or anything like that. And it's sort of liaising with all the emergency services and everything else. It's just being a coordinator in many respects.
So their response.
So that's been available
Actually,
24/7,
it's,
isn't
Well, it's sort of, but you can't be expected to be available all the time. So
Just in answer to your question, Peter, I think it is the people that go on the training are more about understanding the process, getting our policy in place and getting all the contacts. Should there be an incident, if we have everything in place, if you were not available and you were the key person that had done the training, then all the contact details would be on there for whoever to take over and just run with it. The important thing is about having the training and then implementing the policy and making sure that we've got the correct procedures in place should something happen.
So the policy isn't policy isn't in place at the moment. It would be learning how to write the policy, what would need to go in the policy.
Yeah.
the policy is in draft form from LCC, so it's manipulating
Right.
it to suit the area.
Right, well, first decision is, as chair, I will volunteer first anyway, because I think it's only fair.
Well, I think I'm quite happy because I've got time.
Well done, Peter, thank you. Oh, well, that's all, isn't it? It's going to take us 3 months.
Can I have a proposal and a second, please?
I'll second it.
Well, someone's got to propose it, but
Is everybody happy with that?
Yep.
Once they've completed the training, I then would suggest that we then revisit it and then we set up a small subcommittee. So it's not just on those people that have done the training, that there are other people then that can back up
Yeah.
to help.
When you do the training, because I've done the training with LCC a few years
I
back,
didn't volunteer, did you?
I know I didn't, I know what's involved, but it's not just counsellors that have to do it, you have to involve parishioners. And basically you're the emergency team that holds the fort until it escalates up to Lincolnshire County Council, take over and all the emergency services. So you're just the holding party, you're the ones that actually do the initial thing. The problem comes that you have to be very careful. For example, you can't keep a record of Joe Bloggs lives in that street, is blind or bedridden because of data protection. But you end up relying, if there was, say, an accident at the end of the street, it was a chemical spillage or something like that, you would have to warn the residents, stay indoors, keep windows and doors shut. And do you know if your neighbours are away? Do you know if any of them are disabled? You can't physically keep a record. The same as you would liaise with anybody who's got four-wheel drive vehicles, tractors, everything like that. You know, as I've pointed out once before, you get a tanker that's got chemicals on, comes up Boston Road and the road gives way. You've got a school there, you've got a nursing home there, you've got a busy shop, and it's access to Market Hill. So that whole area becomes the emergency thingy. So as the emergency team, you've got to think, right, what can I do until the police take over, the road controls, ambulances come in, and everything like that. So it's very involved, but it is very it's quite interesting. I mean, we'd done the training, and we were very fortunate. We were setting up a team, and we had a lifeguard who, because the fire is, you think, oh, okay, you can have a fireman, but he might be on duty. But you may have a farmer that's got tractors, trailers, and you've also got to look at places of safety. Are they going to need overnight accommodation? And you say, well, okay, LCC are going to authorise that, but you've got to liaise with whoever, the key holder of the community centre. Are they able to provide food? Overnight accommodation. And it's not just the people, it's also their pets.
So basically, 2 people going on this training, great, but then it really is going to need spinning out to the rest of us
Yeah.
and delegating so that we all get a little bit of that training.
This is it, 2 people go on it and you'll get all the paperwork, but then you tend to
Well, we're a big parish, so
Forward-
we'll be kind of
forward.
allocating
Yeah, because-
areas probably even.
you may have the emergency team that's based in Holbeach, and you might have an event that happens in Holbeach Herne. So it's, because you're a big parish, you've got to look at places of safety in more than one area.
Lots to consider then.
It is a big
Volunteers?
responsibility.
to it.
Did you put it in the notes that I volunteered? Did you forget to put on notes? Right, okay, thank you very much for that one.
Just as a final point on that, obviously, we've now got people going on the course, we're going to potentially form a subcommittee. We're a big parish.
You're St John's.
Yeah. We're not going to do that, even if we had full council on there, we wouldn't have enough bodies. Do we have the ability under whatever regulations are, effectively when we get the committee going, to actually look for members of the public
Yes.
to help and
This is
support?
it, yeah.
We'll have them scattered about, hopefully, but we need volunteers, and
Yeah.
that's the hard bit.
I can usually provide volunteers.
Good. I like that.
Wonderful.
That's
That's
something.
my one law.
I've got 40 that work for me, so I can usually.
As long as it's scattered about,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
It's all been on the agenda from June, if you look back,
Right. I'll have to look at that now. won't
it's all there.
Sorry.
I? Okay, we're on to now
Can
number
you send me
21.
that then, please? Sorry.
That's right.
I'll interrupt.
Yeah, it'd be a good idea, just to
Could I have a look at that? Because I wouldn't have seen it, would I?
No, it's on the agenda folder for the meeting of the 29th of June, so if you go to the planning agenda
Okay.
folder, 29th of June, it's called Community Emergency Plan Template, and you can read it all there.
Right, better read that one. shouldn't we? I think we should all read it, just in case. Right, okay. Number 29, speeding. Now, we have to decide here to do B and E, isn't it, Jan? Into one little report from Peter. And that will propose a second, I believe, yes?
Yes.
Second? Thank you.
Has everybody agreed?
Yep.
Thank you.
Right,
Sorry, yeah.
right, Peter, away you go.
Okay, on agenda point A, there is a subdirectory in the meeting folder with my report, which I'll take a copy of here. Joan, I'll get you an abridged version of that in the next day or so. The ongoing placement strategy for the SID is working, it's moving around. The last couple of locations I've been, a very supportive comment from parishioners who've seen me climbing lampposts. I had a very interesting chat with a guy over his fence while he was filling his koi pond a couple of weeks ago. So there is support for what we're doing. It's getting visibility out there, which is good. We've deployed the SID since the last meeting in 3 locations, and there are reports there on the vehicle movements, particularly Boston Road, 31,000 vehicles in 2 weeks past the SID in Boston Road.
Wow.
That's coming in to Holwich. It doesn't count the ones going in. Again, all of the sort of the 85th percentile speed, which is what they use to attract speed limits, they're all within within the policy. So getting reductions in those areas is going to be difficult. Nonetheless, just the simple presence, I think, is a positive thing. Point 3, which I'll err towards points B and E later. I've had a specific request from parishioners in Holwich Drove about the different speed limits between Holwich Drove Gate and Chevy Stowe. It goes from 50 to 40 to 40 to 50 to 30. It's ridiculous. But of course the traffic will go to 60. And there are a couple of really nasty corners on there. I'll leave my report at that point and we'll come on to those points later in the agenda. Point 4, Jan would like to request an agenda item for next full council, all finance, whichever is appropriate, to look to release the remaining funding for the second SID to support the funding that district provided and therefore go ahead and procure. I think we've got enough locations now that could easily justify the rotation of 2 SIDs, one for Holwich Town and one for the provinces, dare I say.
That will be I think, it was after September that it was agreed to be looked at after so it will be the October meeting, is that all right?
Yeah, it's fine. As long as it gets on the agenda, because one really is not enough. And the last bit of the report is just the growing list of other requests and other locations for people who are concerned about speeding, concerned about traffic volumes, requests for reductions in this, and it grows and grows and grows. I'm still continuing to try and reach out to PCSOs, some great support from Tracy Carter at District, who's helping us out. But trying to get a grouped approach to that is proving quite challenging, but I'll keep banging that drum. and my head against the proverbial wall as well. Any comments on my report there?
Can I just ask a question, please, Peter? All the data that you collect, what are we actually doing with the data? Are we just collating it at this stage, or are we going to use it as evidence towards anything, or what is the intention?
At the moment, it's all being collated on my PC at home.
Mhm.
I have requested in the budget for next year a separate device because I'm worried about having it on my machine. I'm in regular contact with Graham Butler, who is one of the traffic technical project managers at LCC. He's quite interested in the data because it can help them in terms of supporting Archer service and stuff that they do. But basically, we're gathering the data to build a picture of traffic problems and hotspots within the parish. And the key piece of data to look for there is the 85th percentile speed. In a 30, if it's anywhere between 25 and 35 miles an hour, you haven't got a hope of getting the speed limit changed at all. But when that pops above, I think it's about 10 to 12% above the speed limit, then of course you can request TROs to come in and do surveys to get these speed limits reviewed at that point. I've not seen any at the moment, despite the fact we've got max speeds of 60 at Boston Road there, 80 in Horwich and John, but again that could be an emergency vehicle. So it's only occasional. So at the moment it's a data gathering exercise to build a picture. I'm keeping an eye on it, and should there be a request for that data, of course, then we can hand it on to LCC.
And the other, following on from that, you mentioned about the volume of traffic coming up Boston Road. Is that something that we can feed into the transport strategy that was done way back? Because obviously part of that was looking about movement of traffic and trying to stop major issues happening at Market Hill, and I know there's still ongoing through the work that they're doing with the strategic work group at the moment, looking at traffic management on Market Hill. Now, if we prove that there is that amount of traffic coming up that road, do they need to look at how that traffic flow going through?
We can certainly use the SID to collect data to support that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The only thing I would need to do is if the location isn't one of the 15 I've got, I'd have to go through a process of getting it approved, which doesn't take very long. I don't have loads of forms to fill in. It's simply a case of writing to LCC and saying we'd like to place it here on this post with this marking in this direction for the purposes of X, Y and Z. I've not had one refused yet. So,
Peter, just a quick question. How long are you going to do this for? Have you got a time limit? Is it a year before you sort of get your results together and send them, or is it ongoing?
At the moment it's ongoing. Obviously, when we get the second SIP, we have double the amount of data coming through. In terms of use of that data, say LCC have expressed an interest in knowing that it's there. It's a case of it's a picture of the issues around the parish. I think you're right. We need to find more locations, and if Market Hill is one, I can investigate that. But I hadn't really got an end strategy in terms of collection. I think it should be a function that as a parish we do, because one, it provides visibility that the parish is actually listening and doing something, albeit it's a flashy sign. But the evidence I've seen, you drive up to a flashy sign, people do slow down. In fact, one of the comments I had up at Holbeach St Mark's last weekend was, we need a permanent one. Yeah, you can do, but they're extremely expensive because they're plugged into the lights and everything and bits and bobs. So that's not really not something that we can manage. But nonetheless, I see it as an ongoing strategy which gets the face of the council out doing something positive to measure and try and tackle what is a very sensitive issue. Speed and traffic is always on probably the top 5 of people's concerns generally.
Well, Sam put in her opening remarks said that she was very interested in speed.
I am, yeah, purely because I've lived in Holbeach most of my life, and the change in the traffic has been so intense. And I've got 2 shops on the high street, and I cannot begin to tell you the change. So the speeding thing to me as well is absolutely, it's incredible that you've got the data that we can look at and to feed it into the planning as well. If that data will feed into why we're saying we don't want a house built there or extra houses built there or
Yeah.
another
So-
factory built there, then surely that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can place the SID anywhere there is an LCC lamppost or district lamppost. Whichever it is, I need to go to county or district to say, can I put it there? As I say, I've never had an objection. So if people would like me to do that, drop me a line and I'll see whether we can get the relevant permissions.
Absolutely.
Obviously, the more sites we get, the bigger and bigger gap between when I can put the SID at these locations will grow, hence the need really for the second SID, so we can focus one in the town and one outside of the town.
Sam, if you want to liaise with Peter on anything, then feel free, because it's
Thank
obviously,
you.
it's obviously a bug
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, more than happy to do that.
Believe me, Peter was incredibly determined.
Good.
I just, it's a battle we'll never win
No.
because there's never enough resource to be everywhere. The conversations I have had with PCSOs is they're massively under-resourced. And actually, as a PCSO, they don't have all the powers they need. They've got to refer to the police, who are similarly massively under-resourced, as we all know. So, but it's about keeping that momentum, keeping a presence, so that people realise we're actually trying to do something. Because that actually, in some respects, begins to win the hearts and minds of people.
Even the fact that we're gathering the data, ready to be able to prove.
Precisely. Precisely.
Are we still getting our traffic warden doing the rounds in Holbeach? Not seen any for a long while.
Hasn't
There we
been
go,
for
one.
about
There
3
we go.
weeks.
There we go, yeah.
There hasn't been one for about 3 weeks.
Wasn't there?
Okay, no other comments on speeding on that report?
No.
Okay, then if you like, we'll take items B and E together. The reason I put them on separately was because I had separate requests for that, but it seems sensible to merge the two. I mentioned that between Holbeach Grove Gate, as you come south on the Gillens with 66 in Holbeach Grove and then through past Watford Road and Sherry Stowe, the speed limit's all over the place. A couple of years ago, we did get the speed limit reduced between Sheppey Stowe and Holbeach Road from 60 to 50, which has tempered things a little bit. Nonetheless, a number of parishioners have come to me concerned that speeds through are too high. It's a residential area, that 50 is not appropriate for that, certainly 40 is not appropriate for that. And indeed, in one of the folders you'll see there is a petition from a number of parishioners in Holbeach Road requesting that we essentially ask LCC for a review of the speed limit through Holbeach Grove, and I felt it was sensible to merge that with the other request to reduce the speed limit through Sheppey Stowe and Holbeach Road as well. So I'd like to request that I write to TRO to ask them to survey and assess the potential for reducing the speed limit across the entire stretch to 40 miles an hour.
So are you asking to agree to an Archer survey on the B1166 southbound into Holbeach Road? That's the agenda item.
Yes, I'm asking for that, and also to support a speed limit reduction to 40 miles an hour, the extent of the V1166 Holbeach Road to Sheppey Stowe. So the two together provide 40 all the way through, but in two requests, which I'll actually make one request, just simpler. That's what I'm asking.
I oppose it.
I'm proposing it. Yes,
We have a second.
I'll second that.
Good.
thank you.
And all agree?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Item C, we discussed briefly at the last meeting, was to post all TROs to Holbeach Parish Council's Facebook page and website. I propose that we do that, again for transparency and visibility, so people know what's going on.
No, Jan.
If we post them to the Facebook page is live on our website, so we don't need to do it twice.
Okay.
And the only thing is I haven't got software that converts it to the JPEG into a photograph, the PDF into a JPEG. I have to ask Sophie.
Right.
Yeah.
So we would need to buy the relevant software to do it.
Yeah, because when we post onto Facebook, you'd have to do a JPEG rather than a PDF.
Yeah.
The only thing you would be able to do is print screen your computer screen. And
I don't
then,
have an issue doing that here.
do you?
Mhm.
Okay.
Does Adobe Reader, because obviously you've got Adobe Reader to read the PDF in the first place, you can print from that, can you not print to a JPEG?
For Adobe Acrobat, you can export a PDF to a JPEG, but you have to pay for that.
No.
And it's quite expensive.
I know it is, yeah.
Yeah. We could probably see whether there's an extension or something like that we can get through Chrome to do it. But again, some of them are free and some of them are paid for.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if not, I'll look into seeing whether you can just print screen it, because that'd be the simplest option.
But the reason for the request is, as I mentioned in the planning earlier, Anglian Water delightfully came and closed the B1166 at about 2 hours' notice on a Saturday morning. The chaos was immense, and they then subsequently put a TRO in to close the road. But people don't know when roads are closing, other than if they happen to see the minutes from a meeting or they watch the full council on YouTube. So I thought if we get that out there, more publicly visible, then at least people will know when things are going on. Might even have supported the Boston Road sinkhole work, and I know that Tracy Carter's been doing a lot of publicity around that recently.
What do we think? I'm really down. Can I just go back to, do you have the Acrobat reader that can...
I've only got the free reader.
What I do is I do it for Jan, if there's any...
I've got the full version.
I know the full version is really expensive.
mm.
You have to absolutely read some of the Acrobat thing. I don't get it.
Have you got the full version, Sophie?
Yeah,
That's
I get it free with the university, so
Oh,
that's
oh,
time limited.
Right, are you done, Peter?
We need to propose that.
So I'd like to propose that.
Right,
for
okay.
C.
Right, you propose it, good. Seconder? Excellent. Everyone agree? Lovely.
Okay. And for some reason, I don't know what F got into speeding, because it really should have been under planning. But there we are. Isabel, we talked about a process for planning applications and how we can make it a lot more efficient.
Sorry, you missed one. You missed Dave to agree to support the reduction.
Oh,
of the-
apologies, yes, go back to that. Yes, I had an email from Graham at LCC. A parishioner has reached out to him and LCC. He lives on Joyce Bank and he would like the speed limit reduced from 40 to 30. Graham has written to me requesting that we as a council support that request so that then Graham can go ahead and get the wheels in motion. I have copied district councillors in there as well. So yes, I'd like to propose that we agree to support that reduction. Thank you.
All agreed?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Right, this Teams thing, that's you've got it there because you're the expert on Teams.
Well, I know a bit. I know a bit. And actually, well, Jan and I have proven that it works. Just very aware that planning applications, they go around by email. People miss emails because I don't know about emails, I get hundreds. So it's easy to miss an email. It's also quite difficult, I imagine, for Jan to track all of the responses and make sure they're updated there. What I'm proposing is that we look at using Teams as a way of firstly distributing to the council as a group the planning application, and there's an easy way of doing that. Each team has a channel and each channel has a unique email address. It would simply need someone in the office to forward that email to that address, or to get the email delivered to that address wherever they come in. That would then post that application in a Facebook-style post into Teams, to which anyone who is a member of that team could then comment. So one, it means we've got a single place where the application is available for people to review. Secondly, we've got a single place where all the comments can then be placed. So we've got a complete audit trail in one location, which takes it away from the mess of emails going here, here, here and here. So I'd just like to propose that we look at it in a little more detail and maybe trial it.
Sorry, just a thought as well, for people who do like watching, seeing them through emails, if it's a group in Teams, because it's set up as an email address, you would also be able to receive them through your inbox as well, if it was forwarded onto an email address. So it would both collate it in Teams, but it would also go to your emails as well. For collating the responses, it'd be easy to do it in Teams, but just it will keep people aware in the emails.
Before we have a second, does everyone agree on that? Does everyone understand it? And does everyone know what it's all about? Because a lot of people haven't used Teams before.
No, and this is something I mentioned to Jan before the meeting. We've got an IT contract with ARC, which covers training. So one of the things we ought to be able to do is get some training on Teams for council.
They'll only do face-to-face training for 2 people at a time.
Okay.
The rest will be online, which may be an issue for some.
Okay. So
Do we have a Teams expert here, Sophie?
Yes.
well,
Right then,
so
Sophie,
between us, we could work something out. So.
Yeah. I mean, Peter could do 7, I could do others. Yeah.
No, that sounds like a great idea to me, and I'll second it.
I think if we do it on a trial basis and see how it goes,
Absolutely.
just to see whether everybody can get their head around it, and then if it works, great. If it doesn't, then we'll have to have another idea.
Do you want to change the agenda item to do it as a...
Yeah, I think we ought to just amend it to say that it'll be on a trial basis for however long.
How long do you suggest? Because we probably put a number in there, 3, 6 months.
I could say 3 months initially, I think. Gives them enough time to
Okay.
control it.
Have you proposed,
Oh,
proposed the amendment? Okay. Could I have a seconder for
I'll
the
second it.
amendment, please? Thank you, Eddie. Everybody agreed with that?
Yes. It's just would maybe write some instructions down, screenshots and stuff.
Yeah, just give them a chance to talk about it and understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's change, and change is scary. Some people don't like. I don't like change, but I just felt it drove a little bit more efficiency in, gave more visibility as well, and allowed us to collate responses more effectively, and also takes a fair bit of work away from Jan as well in having to email this and email that and collate stuff.
No, that's good. Right, you finished?
And that is you done. Yes, thank you.
Well done, Peter.
Thank you.
Efficient as usual. Right, now my lovely bit that I've been going on about for years is to discuss. This is just a discussion, okay? There's nothing to be decided here. We can't. Again, we're planning a discussion about the possibility of purchasing shops with flats above, so we can lease out, rent out to the community, to the parishioners, etc., help them set up businesses, etc. Now, I know that Isabel's had a lot of experience doing this in the past, so how do we do it before and how long? When do we first start doing it?
Well, all the time that I have been on the council, we've always had the shops. The flat was done probably about 10 years ago because it was a commercial entity, and then they vacated, and because it's upstairs, disability, etc., no way it was ever going to rent it as a commercial viable option anymore, so it was decided at that point to change that into a flat, which it has been, and ever since then it has always been rented, so it's a viable option to do it. Those obviously we own outright, so there's never been any outstanding money on them. So everything we get back. All the rents are put at a reasonable rate, and we do short-term lets, so that people have got the option to try, and if it's successful, they can then renew, etc. So it works. It's about getting the right property.
Yeah, and let's be honest, over the last sort of 16 months since the pandemic, the right properties haven't come up. Before that, there was a few decent ones in the town, but they've gone. So it's a matter of just sitting back and seeing and finding the right place. That's for all of us to look at. And it really is. We can alert the estate agents, but if we alert the estate agents, then, you know, the prices start going up. I mean, and does anybody have any thoughts on this before I put my bit in?
My only thought is that obviously as our reserves are quite low at the moment, we would potentially have an issue with finding the money that we needed to do, because we can't allow our reserves to go under a certain amount and they're already below where they should be. So we do need to look at it very carefully before we commit ourselves to more debt. I mean, it would pay for itself, but you've still got the debt hanging over you. So we have got to be very, very careful about how we do that. If the right property were to come up, then it would be worth looking at. But it would have to be the right property and it would have to be a viable entity, because it's all right buying it. If you then got to renovate it, that's another load of money that you've got to put into it. And most of them that you would be buying would need significant renovation.
And that's the main problem. I did look at the tea rooms, but that's impossible because the stairs are right in the middle of the place, you know, so it takes too much to convert that properly. We need something with a completely separate entrance for the flat or flats above, flats hopefully. The properties, commercial properties here in Holbeach at the moment are still quite cheap. They were quite a lot cheaper 2 years ago, but they're running out now, so it's a matter of sitting back and waiting, but it's something which we should discuss. I've started a business plan, I'm changing it now because it was 2 years old, to talk about the mortgage with South Holland, which is the cheapest way of doing it, if they've got any money left. And of course then we've got to decide to set the rent at a low rate and allow people to give it a go. They want to start a business, let them have a go. They're not tied into a 5-year contract. It's ridiculous.
So I guess in corporate terms, what we're looking at is needing to put together a business case for this.
Yeah.
Saying how much we're proposing to spend and effectively how long it would take to recoup that money. Not to make a profit, but at least as a minimum to recoup the money and what the risks associated with that are.
Yeah. I think we do need to do that. As I say, it's discussion time at the moment. It's not set in stone. It may not happen for many, many years. Who knows? But you know, it's just one of those things that I think we should be doing. I think we should be looking at and looking at quite as quick as we possibly can. But again, we're waiting for property to come up. That's all we can do. But people at the full council were quite behind it all, quite excited by the prospect, I thought. Stephen was very pleased with it, and you know, I think we should do it. And obviously the town wants it as well. It's very, very popular. You know, we want to help the parishioners. If someone wants to start a business, let's help them. I know we had the art gallery thing that straight away someone come in, but obviously we're not ready for that yet. But it is something I think will help the parishioners, and that's what we're here to do.
There may be something coming up, but I'm not sure. But it's only small. But it would be a perfect starting point. It may come up. I can keep you posted when I don't know anymore.
Okay.
And it wouldn't be expensive.
That's exactly what we want to hear.
It would need some work.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any in Holbeach that don't need some work
No.
doing.
Most of them need some work, yeah.
If it's just a bit of paint and that's fine. Between us we do ourselves, but you know, if it needs structural work, it's a little bit different. But yeah, that's all it was. I'm glad that everyone's behind that, and that we'll just move on now.
Yeah, again, it's visibility. It's showing we're doing something positive and proactive to support the people of the parish.
Go on then.
I mean, the idea, at the moment, when you walk through the high street, the tea rooms, that's up for sale.
Yeah.
I mean, what was Selections has been under offer, but nobody seems to be doing anything to that. And then what was the double fronted brake. I mean, that's been sold, but nothing's ever happened on that. And I mean, that was, they had, I believe they had plans to convert the upstairs
They
to
have actually
individual
started work on
flats.
that one.
Yeah.
That would have been perfect, but
So you've got the tea rooms, and then of course down the other end by Flower Basket, there's been properties down there that have been empty for quite some time.
I can get the 2 rooms for 80,000. Already disposed of them.
Get less than that.
However, yeah, you probably will.
But the one thing we don't want is any more barbers and no more eateries.
You can't say that.
No, exactly. That's the problem. We
Can't say that.
can't do that. It's really a shame because I know they've got prohibition ads putting our takeaway out. Where the hairdressers is next to it, so
Yeah.
he got it in the end. But the tea rooms, we can't have a flat above there. I don't know, it's all commercial, it doesn't really matter. I mean, we can, you're right, we couldn't get that really. It was 86,000 when I went in there, and that's not worth anywhere near that. What about 80? So they're willing to go down, believe me.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's suitable. It's suitable for a business, but we couldn't. I don't think we could sustain.
Yeah, of course, the
Post
other-
office, the tanning salon.
They're trying to sell that as a business.
Of course, the other one that's just come empty is what used to be the bookies, next to Julia's.
Yeah, but you can't buy it. It's
Can't.
only up for rental.
Yeah.
They're only up for lease because they're owned by a landlord, and you won't get those for
Yeah.
money.
I mean,
And there is no flat with that. It's just a shop, and you've got to find one where the landlord is looking to sell, and that's tricky.
yeah. I mean, it's just, you walk along and you think, that one's saying, what's happening with that, what's happening with that, is that something? And you think, well, what is there and what is the possibilities of what is going to come available? And it's sort of, sarah.
That's just keeping your ears to the ground, isn't it? And I'm sure Sam will know a lot more down the ice around Isabel because she's been around the town a long time. So if we're done on that, can we move on? Properties, Isabel.
Okay, first item, this has changed slightly, but I do still want to have a discussion. 4A, which is the flat above the antique shop right by the church. It became vacant because the tenant vacated. We have been up, myself and Sophie have been up and given it a complete redecoration because it needed it. So it is now back to how it should be. The issue with it is, because it is very narrow going up the stairs and you've got 2 floors, it is very tricky getting furniture in and out. And my thoughts were that, is it something that we look at, not now obviously because things have changed and we have now got somebody interested in renting it. But I do think that we need to look at potentially doing it as a partially furnished property in the future so that the basics are there.
Yeah.
To stop the damage every time you've got people going in and out, because it's impossible for them not to damage it because it is so narrow. And if you know, with the best will in the world, if somebody wants to take a bed up there, they've got 2 flights of stairs to do so, and unless it's flat pack, they're going to have a big problem. And then the other issue is that obviously people do try and get stuff up there, then can't get it up there, and then once it is up there, they leave it there. So then we've got to clear it. So I do think that maybe next time round we look at investing a little bit of money, and it won't cost a huge amount, but just put the bare essentials in there so that somebody could then go in a semi-furnished place, because it's small, because it's 1 bedroom, it's got a kitchen, got a living room, and it's got a shower room, so it's small, so it is only at the very start level for anybody wanting a first flat. So it's the perfect sort of building to semi-furnish.
Where's the flat accessed from?
From the high street, so there's a door directly on the high street, so you have a set of stairs going up, that's slightly wider, that takes you to the first floor where you've got your lounge and your kitchen and the shower room off of there, and then you go up a very narrow staircase to get to your bedroom, which is tricky, to say the very least. But it is, I mean, it's well, hopefully, fingers crossed, there is somebody that is interested and they have put in an application for it now, so hopefully it will be relet very shortly, but it is something that I'd like us to consider and budget for in the next financial year, so that we have got money there to be able to do this.
Could you cost it out and exactly what you want to put in there?
Yeah.
That's the easiest way, isn't it?
No problem.
Would we need to change in some respects the contract with whoever rents it out, obviously
Yes.
to cover
Yes.
deposits for damage and that?
Yes,
Because it would
potentially,
extend beyond.
but that's something that we can discuss with our agent.
Yeah.
I did also approach the university, because obviously they've got students coming in and out all the time, and said to them, would it be something that they would be interested in as a, you know, even if it were a matter that we had to turn it around every 2-3 weeks and we just cleaned it and did that. At this stage they're not, but it is something that they will keep in mind. So it may develop into something more later on.
Would there be, well, it's a bit early days yet, but maybe when Fez comes on,
Yeah, exactly.
that would be an ideal thing
It
for
would.
it.
That's was my thinking, because there's so many things that are changing in the area, and it lends itself to more of a short-term rental rather than a long-term rental. So it may be better to bite the bullet, do it to a decent standard, and then let it that way.
It becomes more attractive as well for short-term rental.
Yeah.
Because I know when the plans came out for Fez and we looked at them, when you're going to have people travelling
Yeah.
to do courses and things, they hadn't thought about making provision for more hotel type accommodation or apartments that they could rent. You know, and that might be a landlord there that would take out a...
It's something that we could then support. Again, it's putting your face out there, you're supporting the development of the town. We have a property there that is ideal for that type of thing. It's not all about making money, though it is about, I mean, obviously we need to get our income coming in to support everything, but it would lend itself to doing that. So if I cost it out, I'll put it into the costings for finance, for putting together budgets, and then
It's great.
hopefully
Yeah.
we can
I think
look
the
at
words
it
you need-
when it becomes vacant next time.
The words you're looking for is a modest profit.
And then item B,
Do you want to take that into closed session?
yes, ought to really. If I can propose that we take item B into closed session due to financial reasons.
Second.
Can I have a proposal for that, please?
Thanks.
Does everybody agree?
Yeah. Right, we're done. 32, items for discussion and agenda item requests. Obviously, if you want them, Jan, what day we've got to get them in by?
Well, I don't know when your next meeting is.
Do you know what, I've been thinking about that. Is it right to have it 2 weeks before, not 1 week before? I'm in the finance.
Because if you have it 1 week before, then I don't have time to turn your agenda items to the next agenda. Because the agenda's already set before your meeting.
Might be in 4 weeks' time then.
So,
I think as Isabel's mentioned a number of times as well, that gives us opportunity at 2 weekly intervals, planning being all of our agenda subjects to full council as well, so we have the ability of a double whammy twice in a month.
Anybody got the items tonight they want to put on the agenda?
I would need agenda items by 5 PM on the 9th. Sorry about that, but
That's for full council.
sorry about that. I can't do anything.
Can I ask a question? There was rumours that Audi were coming into Holbeach, but nobody seemed to know where.
On the other side, the A17, I know.
They were planning on doing all these buildings and opening up new supermarkets, but they've gone very, very quiet. Someone said they were planning on coming to Holbeach, and I thought, well, where are they going to put it?
You won't know that until the day that they announce it.
But then again, you see, would the co-op object like they have done in the past?
Right,
So the,
confirm the date and time, yeah?
so the venue, date for the next meeting. If you go 4 weeks, today it's the 21st, Tuesday the 21st. Is everybody happy with that?
Yes.
And if I could have agenda items by the 9th of September, please.
I am in Bedford on that Tuesday night.
Sorry?
I already have an appointment in Bedford on that Tuesday.
Sorry to hear that.
Do you want to go for the Wednesday then? If everybody's happy with that?
If everyone's happy, or I can forward my apologies now and submit reports.
So,
Are you
we're
happy
looking
with
at
Wednesday?
date Wednesday,
22nd, Wednesday the 22nd it would be.
22nd.
Yeah,
I'll
I
just
think
stick it on. 22nd of September.
still get emails this time, right? Yeah, nothing on, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Is everybody happy with that?
Right, right,
Yeah.
Same time.
6 o'clock,
Yep.
yeah.